What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazik, aka Franchise Play, back with another episode of Ask FP. I do sincerely apologize for the delay. As I keep mentioning to you guys, I guess over the last 2 or 3 weeks now, it's been a lot of transition going on. I am still trying to get my schedule in order of writing, making videos, doing the live streams such as this. So I believe, and I'm about 100% on this, Ask FPs will now be moved until Wednesdays. The new day will be on Wednesday, and it's going to be in the afternoon. And I'm settling in at a time of 2 o'clock. There could be an instance where I do it a little bit earlier, but the great thing about these are, even if you don't get an opportunity to catch them live, you'll be able to watch them afterwards. So I appreciate that, and I also appreciate the people who have been willing to wait for me to come back. That dedication definitely means a lot to me. So let's kind of jump into this. But as I mentioned, just want to reiterate the new day, Rock, whatever. The new day for Ask FP is going to be on Wednesday afternoon at 2 p.m. Central. That is the best time for me in terms of juggling some of the new things that's come up on my schedule. So let's jump right into the questions today. I believe I want to say I have 11 of them. Some of the questions that were asked before kind of ended up getting outdated because I hadn't actually been able to do a broadcast. So I took the ones that were still time relevant and kind of shaved off a few here and there, but we're going to roll with this mighty 11 right quick. And the question of the week comes from Jared Young, and he asked, should the Cowboys start Tony Romo over Dak Prescott when he returns? So basically when Romo returns, should he still, should he maintain his starting position? And my answer to that really is no. And I'm a Romo fan, so I'm not one of those Romo bashers like a lot of people just hate on Romo all the time. But if you're looking at the way this team is playing right now on both sides of the football, you look at the way they're running the ball, you look at the way they're taking care of the football, staying away from turnovers. Dak Prescott has the looks of a guy that could be a superstar, a franchise level quarterback. And I heard this analogy towards the beginning of the season. And it was the Tom Brady, Drew Bledsoe analogy in comparison to Dak Prescott, Tony Romo. And we saw at the time when Tom Brady took over for the injured Drew Bledsoe back in I guess it was 1999, early 2000s, whenever it took place, right? Tom Brady was a 6th-round draft pick. Drew Bledsoe was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He was a franchise quarterback. Probably in most opinions, most people would have probably held him in even higher esteem than the league currently holds Tony Romo. But when Tom Brady took the reins of that team, the way they took off, and Brady was very much a game manager at that time, very much. I mean, it was pretty much the game plan was don't mess it up. We got a great defense. We got a strong running game, but Antoine Smith, don't ruin it. That was the whole thing. So Dak Prescott's in a similar situation, even though I think obviously, times have changed a bit and quarterbacks throw the ball more than they used to. But I think that he's been given even more free reign of the offense, and the Cowboys have won 5 games in a row. They're 5-1 overall. They just went on the road in Green Bay, a place that used to, winning in Green Bay was a huge deal. I mean, it's not as big a deal now as Green Bay is, I think, slipping a little bit. But, I mean, this was a significant victory, very much a significant victory. And the Cowboys are in first place, and I believe right at this point, you'd have to consider them the far and away the best team in their division. I know Washington has won 4 games in a row, but I don't think Washington has a victory on par with a road win in Green Bay. And for Prescott to have engineered that or helped to engineer that, well, obviously the offensive line and Ezekiel Elliott have been amazing. But I just can't pull that guy with the team playing as well as they're playing. I think you leave more room for criticism and you leave more room for regret if you were to sit Prescott for Romo. Because if you bring Romo in and the Cowboys hit a skid, maybe they lose 2 in a row before Jason Garrett makes the decision to go back to Prescott, you're always going to have that wonder of, what if I'd have just stayed with Prescott? You know, if you stay with Prescott and perhaps you say, okay, well, Dak, we're going to stay with you, but Romo's back here. Romo's back. He's waiting in the wings. Obviously, if we hit some stumbles, if offense starts to sputter, that may be the change that we make. That's totally understandable. But if you take the hot quarterback from under center and replace him, even if it is Tony Romo, you replace him with Tony Romo, you're opening yourself up for a lot of due criticism, to be honest. So I would not remove him. Prescott would be my guy unless he struggled and basically forced our hand to move on from him. All right, the next question also comes from Jared Young, and Jared's going MMA on me right here. If I can bring my screen up for you to show you guys. All right, he says, do you think that Eddie Alvarez is Conor's toughest opponent yet? That is difficult to answer. On paper, you could kind of make that that statement, but I cannot say he's tougher than Nate Diaz, the only guy that actually beat Conor in the UFC. Here's the thing. I guess you could kind of say Eddie Alvarez is the toughest opponent, and I'm going to tell you why. Because if Conor fights Nate at 155, I think he stops him. I think he beats him up and stops him. Especially if he has managed his conditioning, if he's managed his attack, and he's not going all out and expending too much energy as he did in the first fight against Nate. I think that he probably stops Nate if they fight at 155. Eddie Alvarez, he could stop Eddie. He could stop. I'm not saying he's not going to stop, because Eddie's going to be there for him to stop, because Eddie's not going anywhere. Eddie's coming full bore, straight ahead. He's like, hey, I got them hands. My hands are proven. I'm a solid striker. My ground game, my wrestling's good. Obviously I think Eddie's going to try to take Conor down if he can, but he's got to get through Conor's majestic stand-up game. And Conor is elite with hands and absolutely elite with feet. So I think it is probably Conor's toughest weight class toughest opponent, because I think the Diaz fight was tough because of the conditions, because you're fighting at 170, which is a weight class above where Conor can naturally make the weight. I don't consider featherweight a natural weight class for Conor anymore, because it's clear he's outgrown the weight class. I think 155 is where he needs to be. So we'll see. I don't think Eddie is the toughest fight out there yet for Conor. I think a healthy Khabib Nurmagomedov is the toughest fight, because Nurmagomedov is the guy who has the ground game that is so elite that if he takes Conor down, it's over. It's over. That's how elite Nurmagomedov is on the ground. But that's the big if. Can he get him there? Because he's got to come through a storm to get there. So that's the real fight for me. I think Conor beats Tony Ferguson. Even though I love Tony Ferguson, and Tony Ferguson is dynamic as a striker, and his ground game is great, his submission game is great, but I don't know about Tony Ferguson's fight IQ. I'm not great with Tony's defense. His toughness is there, but I don't know about his defense. And fighting Conor, I don't know if you can take those shots, So, but Nurmagomedov is the fight. If Conor can beat Nurmagomedov, then I don't know what 155 guys out there is going to get him, to be honest. So we'll see what happens. All right, let's go to our next question, which comes from another one of my regulars, Victor Daniel Torres. Not a lot of new people here on this one, and that's understandable because my consistency is falling off with the show because of the transition. So hopefully we'll get some new people coming in as well. Victor Daniel Torres says the biggest disappointment in the NFL. Right now, I think that's really pretty easy. It's the Carolina Panthers. We're going from a Super Bowl team, and we all know about the Super Bowl losers. If you look at the teams over the years who have lost Super Bowls, there's a pretty high percentage of those teams that have come back and not even made the playoffs in the following season. So that said, 1-5 is, oh my God, kind of bad for the Carolina Panthers. Most people probably had them at the top of their list in regards to NFC Super Bowl contenders for this particular season, but we've not seen that clearly. The defense is the biggest problem. They can't stop anybody's pass game right now. I mean, it's bad. It's really bad. And, you know, Cam getting hurt obviously didn't help, but he came back for the game last week against the Saints, and they find themselves in a shootout that they cannot win because they can't get stops on the defensive side of the ball. It's bad over there. It's bad over there, and Cam's very frustrated. And you can only hope, if you're a Panthers fan and a Cam Newton fan, that he's able to maintain some level of couth through this losing, because he does not dig it at all. So hopefully he doesn't do anything that causes the critics to come down even harder on him. But yeah, he's starting to go into that place where the body language is bad, and you know, you don't want to go there, especially as a quarterback. All right, our next question comes from Jeremiah Bosley. And you know what? I want to say Jeremiah Bosley isn't a new guy, but maybe he isn't. Maybe it's the avatar I'm used to seeing, and I can't remember. But if you have been here before, I appreciate you coming back. If you're new, I appreciate your newness. But Jeremiah says, with the inclusion of dynamic duos in my career, do you think there's any chance of a co-op my career in the future? Now, I have actually kind of been sitting on this question for a few weeks. I've been sitting on it so long, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I debated back and forth of did I actually answer this question in a previous version? But I don't think I did. If I did, I sincerely apologize. But it's such a good question. I wanted to make sure that it was addressed. And, you know, sometimes I have conversations that are not in Ask FP, and I can't even remember if it was that or that, right? But I think that conceptually, a co-op my career is pretty cool. It's pretty awesome, actually. It's really pretty cool. I wonder how many people would actually be able to take advantage of it. And then when you start to talk about how many people can take advantage of this, then now you're getting into a concept of, is it worth the resources that 2K would have to use to put something like this in order? So you got to be on the same page with another person enough over however many games you're going to play to sit down at the same time and play through these games. Then you got stuff like, well, what if somebody gets hurt? Are injuries still going to be in there? So now if I'm hurt and my teammate isn't, then do they just not play? Or, you know, my career is about picking different teams and, you know, asking coach to be traded and blah, 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 blah. So now if we're not on the same team anymore, then where does that leave? You know, now is it split? Does it go two different ways? So there's a lot of if-then scenario type of stuff involved in that. But conceptually, I think what you're getting at mostly is having another person play along with you during your my career. And I think that right there is cool. I think what's better, honestly, is having a head-to-head type of a my player thing where, okay, I'm playing my game, and at any time I could go online and get somebody who wants to jump in, and they can jump in and play either on my team or they can play against me. And this is my choice if I want them in or not. I can even lock the certain positions and say, okay, I'm just looking for somebody to play point guard with me. or I'm looking for somebody to be the opposing point guard. Some people won't want to get into that at all because they'll just be like, nah, that person might mess up my career experience. Whatever. If you're buying into this two-player my player thing or two-player my career thing, it's something you're probably going to be okay with. I don't know. You guys tell me in the comments conceptually with that particular idea. What do you guys think of it? I'm interested to know what other people think. All right. My next question comes from Trash Boat 2K, and Trash Boat 2K says, I'm going to tell you what he said. I ain't going to lie to you. He says, what's your take on the Tyson Fury situation? As a Fury fan, I'm very concerned about his well-being. So for anybody who's not a boxing fan, doesn't know what's going on with Tyson Fury was he held 3 of the 4 heavyweight world, the recognized world championships. But Fury has reportedly he has a drug issue. He mentioned and admitted he'd done lots of cocaine, and there was some talks about some reports about suicide and that sort of thing. If you're familiar with Tyson Fury, you know that his personality is mercurial, to say the least. He's an up and down, back and forth kind of guy. His brashness and understanding of the entertainment and self-promotion aspect of it has been somewhat good for the heavyweight division. Him beating Klitschko, even though the fight wasn't exciting, I think was good for boxing and for the heavyweight division because it kind of helped open it up a bit. But his follow-up has not been great because he hasn't fought since then, and it's just been a bunch of cancellations. They had to cancel the first rematch fight he had with Vladimir Klitschko. They had to cancel because Fury, he said he got hurt, but there were reports that said that he had done no training and he had been partying and had gained weight and he was just out of it and could not compete in the fight. So now the second date was given, and now that date's gone because of this issue. Man, I'm going to tell you something. Fighters oftentimes have issues and demons, and many times that's how they got into the fight game. It was somewhat of an escape or rescue from the issue in the life that they were living. So money doesn't solve those issues, and oftentimes it makes them even worse, because now your issues and your problems that you may have been restricted from falling deeper into your issues and problems because you weren't able to financially support a habit. But now, as you get money, you're now able to have more access to things, and not all of the things that you have access to are positive. So a lot of times money only only makes the problem worse. And that may be what we're seeing with Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, I believe, has some sort of issues or emotional issues. And like I said, money doesn't fix those things. So essentially all anyone can do basically, and I just pray for him that he gets himself together, more so as a man, even more over the boxing. Want him to be of sound mind and fit physically and mentally. And if he just chooses to return and continue his career, that's cool. But he's obviously got to get himself together personally first before he can make that step. All right. Our next question comes from Von Respa Jr. And let's see what Von Respa Jr. says. My screen share option is doing some silly stuff. All right, he says, who is Brock Lesnar's greatest rival? Now, most of Von's questions are usually WWE related, so I'm assuming he's talking about WWE and not MMA. So on the WWE side, I think his greatest rival is Kurt Angle. And I'm going to say why. I mean, he had feuds with a lot of different people in the WWE. I mean, The Rock, you had Goldberg, you had Stone Cold, you had Triple H. Yeah, all types of people, right? Have clashed with the next big thing. it turned out to be a pretty big thing, But Kurt Angle, to me, because if you took the real fighting pedigree that both of these guys came into the WWE with, and you mix that into the type of matches that they had, with Brock knocking himself silly trying to do the shooting star press and the fight and the match with Angle and all of the whole thing, I think that Angle is the guy that when I think about Brock's WWE tenure, that's the guy that I see just like the clash with. I mean, some people could say the Undertaker because, I mean, he broke his streak and then they went on with some other matches after that. But I don't know. For me, it's Kurt Angle. That's highly debatable, though. I'm totally willing to acquiesce to somebody saying something different. But for me, it would be Kurt Angle. All right, let's see. What do we got next? We got Victor Daniel Torres with a Chicago Bears question. And he says, is Jay Cutler done in Chicago? And where can you see him playing next? I think that he's done unless Brian Hoyer gets hurt. He should be done, period, because if I'm running the Bears, even if Brian Hoyer gets hurt, I'm going to Matt Barkley. I'm not going to Jay Cutler. And it has nothing to do with the fact that I think Jay Cutler can't get it done or whatever. If I'm the Bears, I don't want nobody to get it done, because the Bears need to allow themselves to suffer through a horrible season. It is the only way to get an opportunity to get the type of quarterback that you're going to need. I'm not going to say it's the only way, because we're looking at what Dak Prescott, we look at Tom Brady, we look at guys who are, Aaron Rodgers, guys who are franchise quarterbacks that were not drafted at the top of the draft. But obviously, you improve your chances to get the guy if you're picking higher. Even if you're not going to spend that high pick on a quarterback, you can put yourself in a position to make the type of trade that stockpiles of draft picks that then does produce the type of nucleus that you're going to need to turn your franchise around. I think Bears need to find the quarterback. They have to find the quarterback first and foremost at all costs. It has been, I mean, some people will make the claim that even Jim McMahon wasn't the quarterback, but Jim McMahon was a winner. And obviously, yes, he was surrounded with a great defense, a good offensive line, and an aging but still very, very good Walter Payton. But that is the last probably true leader the Bears have had at quarterback. You could make some claims that maybe Eric Kramer, the late Eric Kramer, he passed away not long ago. You could make some claims that Eric Kramer was on that level. Bears signed him, and he had some good seasons with Chicago. But Bears need a leader at quarterback. They really do. And they need a leader at quarterback, even somebody beyond the talent level. They need a guy who is the face of their team, who leads their team. And they don't have that and have not had that for a while at the quarterback position. And I think they have to do whatever they have to do to get that. Deshaun Watson is the guy for me. The talent level is there, but even more so, that leadership is there with that kid. He can be the face of a franchise, and that's who I hope the Bears end up with. I'm rooting for 1-15, and I'm a diehard Bears fan, but I am rooting for 1-15 because I really believe they got to suck in order to truly get better. All right, what do we got next? We got, actually, I do believe that this one is from someone new. If it's not, if I'm missing this one, let me know. But it comes from Solomon. And Solomon says, which team in the East could possibly beat the Cavs in the playoffs? Solomon, honestly, I don't see anybody that can beat, not as currently constructed for both Cleveland and the other teams in the East. I don't see anybody that can beat Cleveland. I don't think that Boston is good enough with Al Horford, because you take away Jared Sullinger, you put in Al Horford. Al Horford's better than Jared Sullinger, but is he enough better to beat LeBron and company in the postseason? Best of 7 games? No. Toronto is another team people talk about. No. I don't see a team really in the East. I just wrote an article for Forbes saying that if LaMarcus Aldridge is truly available, then the Bulls should put in a bid for him. Maybe you give away McDermott, Taj Gibson, and Robin Lopez to the Spurs for Aldridge, maybe Livio Jean-Charles, and Joel Anthony, just to make the deal work from a financial standpoint. And, you got a starting 5 with Rondo, Wade, Butler, Aldridge, and Bobby Portis in the middle, and you got Felicio and Mirotic, and you got Denzel Valentine and Paul Zipser, and those guys coming off the bench. That's a pretty decent, interesting Bulls team. And I'm not gonna say it could beat the Cavs, but it'd be interesting because LaMarcus Aldridge is an absolute game changer, especially on the offensive end. But yeah, as currently constructed, I think nobody in the East beats Cleveland. All right, let's go to the next question, which is from Jared Young again, and we're talking more Bulls trade possibilities here. And he says, what do you think of this trade? Carmelo to Chicago, Jimmy Butler to Minnesota, and Andrew Wiggins to the New York Knicks. As a Bulls fan, would you do it? You know what, man? I'm going to tell you something. It depends. I wouldn't do that particular trade. And the reason why I wouldn't is because Melo is on the downside of his career. As good as he may still be now, you're looking at 2-3 years at the most at him playing at a high level. I think the Bulls should be building for the future. They apparently are not necessarily subscribing to that because you're signing Rondo and Wade. But I think they should be building for the future. And to give away Jimmy Butler and to not get Andrew Wiggins back, no, I couldn't do that one. I just think that one's too short-sighted for the Bulls, basically. It'd be great for Minnesota and New York. I think it's a little too short-sighted on the Bulls end. They're not close enough to winning for that trade. So, no. All right, next up, we got Ty Bud. And Ty Bud says, the best set of linebackers I've ever seen on a team was Kevin Green, LaVon Kirkland, Greg Lloyd on the Steelers. Does history show better? Well, I think whenever you start talking about cores or whatever, especially defensive cores in football, you have to consider the system, right? So, I mean, you could make in a similar system, you can make the argument that Lawrence Taylor, Carl Banks, Harry Carson was better. You could make the argument that Mike Singletary, Otis Wilson, that group, Ron Rivera, was on the same level as that group, but that obviously wasn't a 3-4 group. But so I think it just kind of depends. If we're talking about with outside linebacker, I put it like this. I don't think that we've ever seen a pair of outside linebackers, 2 of them. Most of the 3-4 teams you see have one ridiculously awesome pass rushing outside linebacker. The Steelers had 2. That Steelers team, those Steelers in the 90s teams had 2. And LaVon Kirkland was so crazy because he was like 270 pounds. And he played middle linebacker. That's really large. I think he was like 6'2", 270. He was the size of a defensive end, but playing middle linebacker was pretty significant. So they were definitely great. I don't know if I can call them the best though. All right, what do we got next? We got, let's see, and this actually is the last question of the day, and this one comes from my man Simon Torvey Sunland, and he's changed his name a little bit here. Simon, let's see if we can. He pulled out some new stuff here. He's got Simon Sisegnon fan. Okay. He says, what are your expectations for Michael Carter-Williams this season, and how does he compare to Rondo? Well, what I think about Michael Carter-Williams is his ceiling is probably a little bit more athletic version of Sean Livingston. Big, thin, rangy guy who can play point guard or shooting guard. Neither one of those guys has a lot of range on their shot. Livingston may never be a great three-point shooter. He's adequate at this point. Michael Carter-Williams is bad at it. But I think where they have value is as point guards, they're able to post up smaller guys. Michael Carter-Williams is also a very good defender. He plays the passing lanes very well. He has really high potential as a defender because of his length and athleticism. I think he has to find his game, though. The three-point shot may never be a great shot for him. But if he can make himself a low post threat, which I've seen him give a team a problem in the low post, then I think that there's something there potentially for him. We'll have to see what happens. As far as comparing to Rondo, both of them are pretty much challenged when it comes to shooting the three. But I think aside from that, they don't play similar at all. I think Carter-Williams is more of a scoring guard than Rondo. But I do think that most of them, both of them do their damage on defense by playing in passing lanes and using length. Because Rondo is not as tall, but his arms are super long, which allows him to play a little bit bigger than he is. But Michael Carter-Williams, I think the trade was a great trade for the Bulls. I mean, you're literally getting nothing from Tony Snell, and you bring a guy who, while he was the rookie of the year in a horrible draft year, he is a talented player physically who is still so young that the book is probably not written on who he's going to be. Even if he doesn't turn out to be anything, you gave up Tony Snell. So what? So we'll see what happens. I do appreciate you guys watching. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Wednesdays, 2 p.m. Central Time is going to be the new time for Ask FP. I'm going to try to make sure we stay on this. We were doing really good at the Tuesday at 6. Just things changed, and that no longer is going to be a good time. So Wednesday is a much better time, and earlier, 2 p.m. Central Time is also great. Like always, I appreciate you watching. God bless. Peace.